Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me in another video. So as you can tell based on the title, well, John Galliano steps down from Maison Margiela after a 10-year run at the brand. And so John Galliano on his Instagram, he's wiped his Instagram by the way, but we have this Instagram post where he officially says goodbye. And so I'll just read you guys the letter and then we'll just quickly talk about it. But he states, "Today is the day that I say goodbye to Maison Margiela. My heart overflows with joyous gratitude and my soul smiles. For I'm 14 years old today, 14 years sober, living a life better than I ever dreamt possible. And this is thanks to two people, two truly beautiful people whom I both love and cherish. They, however, are too humble to allow me to mention their names here. We know who they are, and I will be forever indebted to them, forever grateful. The rumors everyone wants to know and everyone wants to dream. When the time is right, all will be revealed. For now, I take this time to express my immense gratitude. I continue to atone and I will never stop dreaming. I, too, need to dream." At a Halloween family gathering in Tokyo, all in festive makeup under the silent slow motion gaze of the full moon, Renzo engaged in a dialogue about legacy. He told me his legacy would be his children and his work. This conversation prompted an unexpected question from him about my thoughts on John Galliano. I explained that I had mourned the loss of JG and my previous identity, but I am much happier with the new version of JG. I strive to be a better version of this person. I then felt emboldened and challenged him. I told him that from my perspective, a part of his legacy would be the goodness and kindness he showed me 10 years ago. The greatest, most precious gift he gave me was the opportunity to once again find my creative voice when I had become voiceless. My wings mended and I better understood the all-consuming act of creativity. My gratitude for the sentiment, quote, "only the brave," tattooed on him runs deep. To have this bled onto your skin must mean you truly believe in this motto. It can be very persuasive, his positivity infectious, in inviting me to assume the position of artistic director in the house that Martin built, and further enabling Martin and me to partake in a, quote, "cup of tea" together. This gentleman tipped the balance for me. He made me feel I could do the job even when I doubted I was the right person for it or dared to presume I was. Martin's joy and his long hidden wish that a couturier would assume this role came along with his kind advice. Take what you will from the DNA of the house, protect yourself, and make it your own. You know how to. In front of this gentleman, I had an epiphany. I was ready. I would only surround myself with like-minded people, strong people who shared the same work ethic. I informed Renzo I would take him up on his kind offer, but my recovery would have to come first, and it did. 10 years later, I am forever grateful for the safe space to create and build a new family that supports me with courage and dignity. Although little had changed in the industry then, my perspective on it has radically shifted. I begin to see changes all around me. My compassion and empathy. Gratitude to my fashion family for this life-saving creative moment and the safe place we have built together. My team, whose support has been tender and courageous, have walked me along this narrow pathway to the here and now. Human beings at their best are resilient, creative, and inventive when unafraid of being themselves. I'll readily admit I'm demanding and difficult to run with when challenged, but look at what we have built. This is when the family, the fashion industry, is at its best. When we collectively support each other, not judge. When we accept, forgive, and help one another see the error of our ways. Being brave enough to unlearn, to re-educate ourselves from the past, for it is societally learned to share, empathize, and practice compassion. A second chance with childlike eyes and forgotten innocence, we make amends, believing in ourselves, for God is in all of us, not when we cancel each other out. This precious gift I speak of, supported by cherished and loved ones, allows me to see the world afresh through a different lens. It enables me to share this experience with young adults joining us, reinforcing a belief in oneself. You can be whoever you want to be, enjoy, you do matter, and we do care. Forgiving myself was, for a while, the hardest act. I felt guilty that my behavior perpetuated the stereotype that creativity had to be fueled by drink and drugs, that old rock and roll attitude so wrong. With my teams, we've proven that creativity is never out of fashion. It is not fueled by those destructive forces, but by a creative community that cares and considers design. Through the films we've produced and the resulting platforms created, I'm able to stay in touch with my digital nomads, connecting and sharing experiences without fear. Mutiny, the film, culminated my work and verbalized our socio-political messaging, our belief that trans rights, queer rights, gender equality in the workplace, anti-racism, and mental health advocacy had to be at the center. It was a manifesto for the brave new generation, a testament to the courage to stand up so proudly and fearlessly for what you believe in. I celebrate the genderless collections we now produce, reinforced by how they are bought and supported. My co-ed collections, whether artisanal or ready-to-wear, represent diversity and individuality. I celebrate the magical relationships with my muses who challenge me to create safe places where we can dream and make believe. You inspire everything I do. You are my life. All my muses have battled society's norms and restrictions on gender and body identity. I rejoice in self-expression and freedom. Finally, I want to celebrate the joy I found in the various ways we communicated creatively and worked with different artistic cultures, theater, cinema, digital, embracing all these cultures to celebrate fashion. To my atelier, my A-team, devout in belief and dedicated to style and technique, thank you. We relish in the importance of slow and ethical fashion and the influence it has on all our collections, the pyramidal way of working. Your outstanding knowledge and ability to communicate a line with feeling and emotion is the heart of all creation. Together, we are driven by beauty, the quest for balanced construction, and the lightness of a feather. Thank you, Johnny G. Okay, so that was so beautifully stated. John Galliano has such a beautiful way of speaking. I remember early on for his work at Margiela, he used to have, it was like a podcast or some kind of like audio accompaniment to his creations. So I feel like I'm reading this, but I hear in my head how John Galliano's speaking. I feel like John Galliano is just someone who is really able to express his feelings, his emotions in all mediums, all formats. And as I've said, we've talked about John Galliano before on this channel. I would say his arc. We've talked about the cancellation and we've talked about his path to redemption. And I think it's very noteworthy that in this Instagram post, he highlighted the rumors. And of course, there have been numerous rumors, of course, Chanel being the obvious big name that everyone has been saying. I also remember Fendi, that was also a major story. I honestly think at LVMH, there's probably going to be a lot of musical chairs that continue to happen. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Galliano, I don't know, maybe I could see him if JW Anderson goes somewhere else, he goes to a brand like Loewe or Dior. Or what if he just goes back to his own house? Who really knows at this point? I do appreciate that in this post, he did say that the rumors, which we've been hearing, they're all going to be addressed in due time. It leads me to believe that some things have to happen before the announcement occurs, whatever it's going to be. Another thing that I found interesting was the way I first read letter or note to the public. When he mentioned John Galliano, I immediately thought, is this his brand? I felt like it could have two meanings. Is this his brand that he's talking about, how John Galliano, JG, has changed? But I also think it's himself. I think it's probably a bit of both. The identity of JG or the loss of JG, his previous identity, how there is this new version of JG or John Galliano that has been rebirthed out of his experience at Margiela. It is supposed to be a reference to his evolution as a person. And I think a lot of what this was to say, I have changed. I know some people may not remember, but some people do remember what had happened with his anti-Semitic remarks. We talked about this with the documentary, so check out that video. I'll link it down below, but I thought it was quite beautiful how he talks about the compassion Renzo had when bringing him on to Margiela. I thought the point about the tattoo, Only the Brave, was very beautiful. Seems like a different kind of CEO. And also what Margiela had told him, I think that's John Galliano. No matter where he goes, no matter what he does, he is always going to be him. He is so true to himself. And you can see when something is very distinctly John Galliano. Because I also do think he, in his own way, was able to pull from the archive of Margiela and the deconstructed John Galliano. Totally embrace that. I had only ever purchased one thing from the Galliano Margiela era, and it was the 5AC bag. In the midst of selling that, but a part of me also kind of wants to keep it. But it's very much this concept of a deconstructed bag where the inside, where you can pull like the inner lining of the bag so that it becomes this like tote bag. I do really think he was able to reference that aspect of Margiela, the deconstructed aspect, but then also stay true to how he likes to make historical references and bring this element of theater and performance to his work. It's actually been very beautiful to see. And just me personally, I remember when I was very, very young, like a teenager, admiring John Galliano and a lot of the other designers of that era. It does feel like he is one of the last of his kind that design in this really theatrical way that like references history and culture and does it in such a poetic way. We don't really see designers like John Galliano create fashion the way he used to. And I will say it is very encouraging to know that the rumors will be addressed. I don't know. I get the sense that maybe he's going to his own brand. I don't know if he's going back to LVMH for that. I don't know. Maybe he goes to one of the brands at LVMH, but there's something about the way he phrased this that made me think there's that possibility as well. I think it would be beautiful for him to go back to his own house with his own pace on his own time. He's able to create the work that he still, I think, wants to create. I still think he has a creative fire inside of him that he still needs to express. I thought it was a very nicely put letter and a way to like sign off with Margiela and his relationship with Renzo and Only the Brave. There's also something else I think we're gonna also see whenever it happens. So yes, anyways guys, that is my video. Thank you so much for joining me in another one, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.